Hey guys, so today we're clearing up something about the chief villain of the Second and Third Ages of Middle-earth. While we've talked a lot on this channel about Sauron during the Second Age, there's a common misconception about the Dark Lord during the Third Age. While the incredible Peter Jackson trilogy brought to life so much of Tolkien's world, one of the biggest misnomers resulting from the film that I'm often asked about is the nature of Sauron's form in the later Third Age. Sauron in the Lord of the Rings films famously appears as a giant flaming eyeball atop the tower of Barad-dur. While a striking supernatural image, this is nowhere near the actual appearance of Sauron during this time, or any time for that matter. This device did work effectively for keeping Sauron an imposing and all-seeing presence, while setting the stakes of his return to his physical form should he regain the ring. However, the Eye of Sauron is indeed a canon concept, though it's in a different form entirely. Firstly, when Frodo looks in the mirror of Galadriel, he sees what may indeed be Sauron's actual physical eye, yellow and rimmed with fire, with a slit pupil described as a window into nothing. While he stays in his fortress of Barad-dur, Sauron indeed had a physical form by the War of the Ring. However, without his one ring, he remains in his fortress, while his servants would carry out his battle plans. His physical form is confirmed by Gollum in the Two Towers, as he talks briefly about his time as Sauron's prisoner, during which he was tortured by the Dark Lord. That would be Minas Ithil, that Isildur, the son of Elendil, built, said Frodo. It was Isildur who cut off the finger of the enemy.
Yes, he has only 4 on the Black Hand, but they are enough,
said Gollum, shuddering.
And he hated Isildur's city.
Now we know that Sauron both has a physical form and is not a giant eyeball, but the Eye of Sauron is indeed a major concept in the books, also referred to as the Red Eye, the Evil Eye, the Lidless Eye, and simply the Eye. In these instances, rather than an actual eye, it refers to a symbol used by the Dark Lord and his followers. It is found on orc armor and places where the servants of Mordor had wrought their destruction. The Fellowship has one of their first sights of the emblem of Sauron at Amon. They had not come very far from the road, and yet even in so short a space they had seen the newer wounds made by the orcs and other foul servants of the Dark Lord. Trees hewn down wantonly and left to die, with evil runes or the fell sign of the Eye cut in rude strokes on their bark. This emblem was not only a symbol for Sauron's forces, but also a reminder to all of Middle-earth of the Dark Lord's unceasing vigilance and piercing perception. Not only did he have the Nazgul and legions of orcs and men under his sway, but he also had a Palantir, with which he could survey the lands and affect the minds of others. The symbol of the Lidless Eye was one which would remind the peoples of Middle-earth that Sauron was ever watchful. However, we also can't rule out that Sauron himself had a supernatural ability for sight. If we go back even further in Middle-earth history, we find that Morgoth, the original Dark Lord whom Sauron served, was described as having a supernatural ability of sight and perception. For when he captures Hurin and places him in a seat atop Thangorodrim, he says, "Therefore, with my eyes you shall see, and with my ears you shall hear, and nothing shall be hidden from you." This ability certainly had its limitations, as Morgoth could not use it to discover the hidden elf city of Gondolin. However, it did allow Hurin to know of the misfortune that would fall upon his family. As for Sauron's ability to survey the lands of Middle-earth, it's unknown how much of this was a result of his possession of a Palantir versus his innate power as one of the Ainur. Whatever it was, Sauron was diligent in his use of it, so much so that he would use the emblem of the Red Eye for his armies. The fact that Sauron's orcs used the eye as their symbol helps Aragorn to deduce the meaning of a strange new emblem found on the fallen orcs at Amon. Upon their shields they bore a strange device, a small white hand in the center of a black field. On the front of their iron helms was set an S rune, wrought of some white metal. "I have not seen these tokens before," said Aragorn. "What do they mean?"
"S is for Sauron," said Gimli. "That is easy to read."
"Nay," said Legolas. "Sauron does not use elf runes. Neither does he use his right name, or permit it to be spelt or spoken," said Aragorn. "And he does not use white. The orcs in the service of Barad-dur use the sign of the red eye." He stood for a moment in thought. "S is for Saruman, I guess," he said at length. "There is evil afoot in Isengard, and the west is no longer safe." As Sam and Frodo make their way through Ithilien, they discover a once great statue, much like the Argonath. It had been maimed, its head removed, and in its place a rough-hewn stone, painted with a grinning face and a large red eye in the midst of its forehead. This leaves no doubt as to who desecrated this monument, or whom they served. The symbol is also described as being on the orc helmets that Sam brings to Frodo so that they may go forth from Cirith Ungol undisguised. It is also the symbol that is found on the banner, accompanying the mouth of Sauron as he issues forth from the Black Gate to parley with the men of the West. It's a single black banner and bears a red, evil eye. One of the most chilling appearances of Sauron's symbol comes in the Siege of Gondor. For the enemy was flinging into the city all the heads of those that had fallen fighting at Osgiliath, or on the Rammas, or in the fields. They were grim to look on, for though some were crushed and shapeless, and some had been cruelly hewn, yet many had features that could be told, and it seemed that they had died in pain, and all were branded with the foul token of the lidless eye. Now, I do believe the Eye of Flame atop Barad-dur was effective in the films to convey an ever-present foe and his never-ceasing vigilant gaze. And while it also helped to show the audience where the Dark Lord's attention was drawn, I personally prefer the book version of Sauron in physical form, still marred by the blade of Isildur. It takes us further down the path of each of the Dark Lord's downfalls costing him. First, he loses his ability to take fair form in the downfall of Numenor, and now he bears a reminder of Isildur's blade upon his hand, which gives some added depth to his hatred of the descendants of Numenor. While it has inevitably caused some confusion to fans over the years, I totally understand the use of a more visual and in some ways limited representation of Sauron's form in the films. It doesn't ruin my enjoyment of my favorite films of all time, nor does it affect my enjoyment of the book version, which I prefer. In the end, I'll envision Sauron as he is in the books, the nine-fingered creature of malice, pulling the strings in his war against his most hated enemies, always gazing throughout the land searching for his enemies and his one ring. And while he is engaged in a game of chess with the men and Maiar of Middle-earth, his symbol of the red eye brings fear to those who behold it. What other burning questions do you have for Middle-earth? Are there perhaps other misconceptions from the films you feel should be addressed in their own video? I want to know what you guys want to see covered here on the channel, so let me know what you think in the comments. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters who make this channel possible. Tom DeBombadil 19, Listen Me the Cinda, Mandu Pandu, Andrew Carlisle, The Mighty Mim, Team Weasel, Rabbi Rob Thomas, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Salim Rahman, Zetrock, Berto Berg, Grand Strategy Nerd, Graham Derricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Michael Wu, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description and purchase prints of their great work for yourself. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.